All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. Yes, I'm back in Nigeria with full for reality. Let me put it like that. All right, guys, let me stay through to the topic at hand because they say the impact of leadership can be felt when there is transformation, and leadership is not about building bridges, also is about mending and sustaining bridges, and bridges in our national context are the ties that we uphold with other nations. I would be touching on that in a short while with two of my guests today. But quickly, I'm welcoming you to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, Kike Atanda-Owo. Yes, I love that Atanda-Owo name so much. I know quite a number of people have been on my matter. I can't keep it written on this, that guys, individual identity is key despite marriage. Yes, I'm saying that. All right, guys. So let's move on to what on this day in history has for us today. Stay with me. I'll be right back. I think the lessons from gathering what we have on this day in history segment, the lessons for me, is from this event, this historical event today, is to prioritize security, address the root causes of conflict, through non-violence means that has been ongoing for a while. And of course, we should engage with one another, especially when it comes to our individual community, to foster, peace and understanding, especially in regions where security challenges are very rampant. And it is, believed that these unknown gunmen have connections with IPOB. I stand to be corrected, allegedly. That's my opinion with all that has been happening thus far, and looking at the pattern at which it has been happening. So I believe that dialogue and continuous dialogue is key, and that's my message from what was gathered for on this day in history segment. Again, I think it's time for us to just get a message from our sponsors, and when I return, the main conversation will begin. Stay with me. I'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with me. On the live show today, I'm delving into a groundbreaking development, and that's set to reshape Nigeria's aviation landscape and strengthen diplomatic ties between nations, and the United Arab Emirates and, of course, the UAE yesterday, lifted the visa ban placed against Nigerians travelers after the meeting between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and, of course, the UAE President Mohammed bin Yair Nahyan. I hope I pronounced that properly. I had to ask before coming on air, in Abu Dhabi. And of course, in a historical agreement, the United, Arab Emirates has lifted it in after months, I think 10 months now, I stand to be corrected, long visa ban on Nigerians, marking it a pivotal moment, in bilateral relations. Not only, does this mean the return of flights operations by Etihad and Emirates Airlines, but it also paved the way for significant investment in Nigerian economy across various sectors, if you ask me, from defense to agriculture and so many other things that I've read, before coming on the live show today. But before I delve further with my guests, I have one of my guests joining us virtually, Barrister Allen Oyema. We're still trying to connect with him virtually, and of course, I have another guest on the in the studio today physically, and they are stakeholders and game changers in the airline business of Nigeria. Let's go straight to their profile, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. I have Dr. Alex Nwuba, right?
Yes,
yeah, Nwuba, yes. Many thanks. He's a friend of the house. He has been on the set before, but he's right here physically in the studio with me while we're still trying to connect to Barrister Atanda-Owo virtually, where he's looking for a quiet place to join us. Hopefully, we'll be able to get a place. And of course, you know, they are here to give us a comprehensive discussion, you know, on the implications, you know, of the UAE on Nigerian ties for the travel, let's say business in Nigeria. And again, I must say many thanks, sir, for always honoring my invite. I do not take it for granted. Thank you so much. You're looking dope. You're looking, you know, as always. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so
Great
much.
audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I guess you have a lot of fans online, because quite a number of people have been DMing me and say, oh, we're looking forward to this show. Aside the fact that, you know, Barrister Alex will be joining us, we're a fan of Mr. Alex as well, and all the impact that you've made. And that gladdens my heart when I hear things like that, because I feel that the leaders of today need to live a life of impact, you know. But moving away from that, you know, let's start with the news hitting us on our screens, on our socials, all over the place in the news, with what the UAE have done, you know, in terms of lifting the ban, and of course, you know, what came to mind after about the travel ban and lifting it. I would like you to give us an holistic perspective, because it sounded sweet to the ears to quite a number of people, but I feel that this appealing news, you know, have a lot of nitty-gritty challenges in it that I would like you to enlighten quite a number of Nigerians on it. What's your let's start with that.
Okay, thank you again. I think the problem we have is the pigeonholing of the issues around tourism, travel to Dubai, airlines going back and forth, rather than the real broad and more important issues. The UAE is a friend of Nigeria, has always been a friend of Nigeria. We've had disagreements that have lasted over 10 months, and one has to ask, are we going? Some people have the opinion that it is even wrong for the president to go and hand a cup in hand to ask for favors from the UAE, but that's not actually what happened, and that's why I chose to speak so early, because people say, well, how can you comment on this when the issues are not even clarified? But it is not about that. We have to understand that Nigeria is in need of investment, significant amounts of investment. Just last year, a number of states, 14 of them, through the Nigerian Governors Forum, tried to raise $14 billion from the UAE. That can only happen with a good relationship with the UAE. It's only a small number of Nigerians that actually go to the UAE, under 170,000 of them, and they spend quite a bit of money there, but not as much as the fact, if we consider that the UAE is the second largest investor into the Nigerian economy. So the issues are much, much broader, and that's why it was necessary for the president to go and re-establish a better relationship in view of the difficulties we've had over the last few months.
Many thanks for that insight right there. But you know, many would want to make a reference on the, will I say, the diplomatic failure of the past administration in terms of resolving the disagreement that happened in the past and all of that. And I would like to ask you, because as a private stakeholders, you know, in the airline industry, how do you, you know, see this government handling all the aviation affairs, tourism industry challenges that have been following us over the years, looking at the culture till date and all of that, with your own view or your own perspective? You know, I would like us to bring it to fore when it comes to the international relations, especially with the other nations when it comes to ease of doing business in Nigeria.
Well, on the ease of doing business, that's a bit more complicated than the relationship we have with other nations. I think that the past administration failed significantly in terms of managing our relationships on the levels we needed to manage them. While we have domestic political problems at home, this president has seized it upon himself to make very, very mature strides, even though there are some learning challenges. I think the biggest challenge the administration has faced is not understanding, the spokespeople of the government not understanding that we are no longer in the era of telling stories that are not checkable. We live in the age of checkable information, and so when we refer to the prior sins of Lai Mohammed and the way things are being presented in terms of information.
You're not saying them right now. You're spilling a lot.
It comes forth that we need to be much more transparent. We need to tell people more of what the government's objectives are and what we seek to achieve and what is the benefit to the citizens. And I think it is the lack of the inability to communicate in that manner that has led to so much speculation about the validity of things. Look, the president came in a few months later. He was appointed the chairman of the African Union, of ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. He's gone on to be invited to the G20 summit. He's gone on to have discussions with investors in many parts that came to the G20 summit. Right out of that, he went right to the UAE to cement a new relationship. The details are being formed, and some of that information is coming out now. A bit confusing. There are questions. More questions are raised than answers are being provided with regards to that. But generally, it's a good agreement. Let me tell you why it's a good agreement. A country like I sit on what is called the Aviacargo Committee, which is a government committee to look as to how Nigeria can become the #1 exporter in Africa. Currently, we are #5. If you take a country like the UAE, we have the Japa syndrome, and so we have lots of Nigerians looking for better opportunities. And so when a country like the UAE closes its doors to Nigeria, it closes its doors for opportunities for many young Nigerians, which I will address in further along the line in how we can do that legally. The problem is that we go as tourists and then end up as being workers. But we have to realize that 98% of the low-skilled labor in the UAE is foreign. So there are over 4 million jobs that are created in that economy that can be taken up. The country imports 85% of what it consumes for food. Nigeria has vast agricultural land that can provide the things that the UAE imports. The UAE imports over $1.6 billion of dairy every year, almost $1 billion of meat, almost $1 billion of poultry and eggs. All of these things that Nigeria can produce and sell to the UAE. But that can only be done in an environment of trust and a better, improved relationship.
Many thanks again for that elaborate submission. You've said a lot in this your submission, talking about Japa syndrome, talking about agriculture and the likes and all of that. I must emphasize that, the issue people Japa is not because they want to come and become a billionaire like Dangote or $10 and the likes of Elon Musk or the like. It's just because of basic amenities and lack of so many things in terms of structure in Nigeria and all of that. But let me move away from that, because you touched on agriculture, which I feel that is a big revenue, because over the last 4 years, the Emirates and Nigerians, fell into series of disagreements and eventually disengaged direct air travel service due to trapped revenue with CBN. And we've seen how the youths, misrepresented us also in UAE, around the world, to be honest, and the diplomatic failures as well, and quite a number of challenges that if I continue, I might not be able to ask my question. But I must ask you, do you think that the main issues have been addressed, or it has been swept under the carpet? Because just few hours of meetings and all of that, I can see quite a number of Nigerians jubilating without actually paying attention to the nitty-gritty and the clauses that will come with the lift of the ban. What's your take on this?
Well, the president won't just go to have a chat with the UAE president. There may have been several months of diplomatic moves between the two countries, and some spirit of engagement that would have cost the president to fly to conclude the agreement. Presidents go to conclude, they don't go to discuss. And so it's obvious that, look, being at odds with each other has not helped either of our economies. Nigeria spent over $380 million in 2022 on Emirates going to the UAE. This agreement comes away with a better, improved relationship with the UAE and a deferment, from what we understand, of the amount owed to the UAE. And the UAE has the financial capability to either do one of two things: forgive that amount because they have the resources, or defer that payment so that it can improve the relationship between the two countries. So in discussing, the biggest diplomatic failure for us last year with respect to the UAE was when the chairman of NIDCOM, the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, says Nigerians are the major cause of crimes in the UAE, which is not backed by any statistics. So we know that there are some difficulties that are there. We have the very famous story of Hush Puppy in the UAE. And so things like that get elaborated. But there were many, many things that Nigerians benefited from each other in an improved on that improved relationship. So I think that the president going there and re-engaging again and opening the door and telling us, we have to take the president at his word until things get better clarified. That we are now friends again. We can now visit each other by the granting of visas. Flights will happen. The only thing that seems to be missing in that message is when these flights happen, as I said, Nigeria spent 380 million on Emirates going to the UAE. In solving this problem, it must be win-win. Nigerian airlines must also be able to go to the Emirates. And that's something I fought very hard for in the last administration, in dealing with the last minister, so that a portion of that money, a significant portion of that money, is spent with Nigerian carriers going to the UAE. Because when that money is spent with Nigerian carriers, the money remains within our economy. And if it remains within our economy, it can do a lot more in providing jobs, opportunities for Nigerians within the economy. So it cannot just be, as reported currently, that it allows Emirates and Etihad to come to Nigeria, but is silent on the issue of Nigerian carriers.
Many thanks again. But sir, because earlier you were talking about us telling stories. We like to tell stories, especially with previous administration. I don't want to actually, throw this administration under the carpet yet, and all of that. But you know that there's a culture about Nigerians when it comes to telling story. And again, let me add to that, photo hub. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in these countries, they like to organize, events for presidents to just go and do photo hub and just do the likes and all of that. Because in 2022, I feel that the airline operators of Nigeria, that's the OON, yes, they were objected, objected strongly, to protest by foreign affairs or foreign airlines, including Emirates, that they had not been able to actually,
access the market.
Yes, as repatriate, about $464 million of their revenue out of Nigeria. And I like the fact that you mentioned earlier about significantly them spending the money in this country as well. But the Central Bank of Nigeria, that's CBN as well, at the time announced the release of, I think, about $265 million, to foreign, airlines through special offers, special effects, intervention. And I must ask you, have these issues been resolved? Because it's important for us to actually pay attention to that. I really do not want us to talk about, just pointing fingers at the issues, but the resolution, the solution, have it been resolved? We are yet to give all these issues a more detailed transparency, other than the photo ops that we are seeing all over the place. I just want to add photo up to your issues of us telling stories. Yes, basically.
Well, we do tell stories, and everybody tells stories. All countries tell stories. You always portray yourself in the most positive light to encourage others to engage with you. And so we do tell stories like everybody else tells stories. On the issue of Nigeria's indebtedness to foreign airlines, I did speak about this on this show. I spoke about it on many national shows, that we should address the issue of the gaps in terms of our ability to pay. But we're never going to be able to pay until we improve our economy. And we took one major step in removing subsidies, so that we took the burden of expense off the table of the country, so that we're able to save money to reinvest and to generate other income. Our debt ratio is very, very high, almost 98% of our capital, of our national expenditure. And so we can only resolve that issue by reducing expenditure on one level, as well as increasing investment and returns. Our foreign reserves are down. That's where we make these payments from. So nothing can be lost by a process of engagement with other countries. Look, the Middle East is one of the wealthiest regions of the world. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are probably the richest nations on earth, given if you look at the liability side of many nations. And so they've achieved that through investment. And so this move by the president is one that encourages investment in the Nigerian economy, and that's what they've discussed. It also says that they have agreed to defer, because by saying that the issue has been set aside means they've agreed to proceed on this engagement without dealing with the issue of I owe you money, therefore I have to pay. Many economies owe. I think you know that the largest debtor in the world is the United States of America. And so that is not a crime in any sense, but it is about the spirit in which you engage. I owe you, I'm unable to pay, these are the terms under which I would repay, rather than to ignore it. So you raise a valid point. Are we addressing the issues? I am certain that the Central Bank of Nigeria is addressing its liability issues. You've seen the transparent move made by the Central Bank with regards to reviewing its financials and providing accurate account of the state of this nation's economy and the Central Bank. So we lose nothing by the process that has been done. It's not so much a case of the president has gone and begged the UAE to become our friends and allow Emirates to come to Nigeria. It's much broader in scope, and I think that when we redefine it, and as I said, it's not about propaganda. We no longer live in the age of propaganda. Everything can be fact-checked. And so, you know, Nigeria released a statement, the UAE released a statement, we found the gaps between the two, but I believe in a very short while they'll be reconciled. But the spirit of it is that Nigeria is once again talking to the UAE, we're going to be able to do business with one another, and we need their money in our economy to grow our economy.
All right, many thanks again for that elaborate submission. I want to talk about, I still want to touch on this CBN issue, especially when it comes to, you know, special effects intervention for foreign affairs and the likes and all of that, because I just feel that, and the reason why I want to touch about this is because I'm familiar, you know, with all that is happening right now, especially when it comes to CBN, because I know that, you know, Barrister Atanda-Owo, who is also a familiar personality on this platform, apart from the fact that, you know, is a stakeholder by virtue of EPIS being a sponsor on our show on TV and of course on radio, and of course by extension of ZH as well in terms of training. But I want to talk about the issues that may be unresolved, so to speak, because I feel that the Central Bank of Nigeria are still talking about the special FX intervention, you know, or for foreign airlines, but the same CBN is sitting on about $14 billion belonging to EPIS.
Right,
it's an information that is out there, and I know that even when it went for the event for the annual event by NBA this year, a few weeks ago, he still mentioned that publicly. I must ask you, as one of the stakeholders in this industry, what is the government doing about, you know, the money that they're owing, let's say for instance, EPIS organization, and of course, how does this new agreement, you know, all of them in settling all the issues that they have on ground, and I'm sure many other airlines like Arik and the likes and all over, you will definitely have a better information. What's your take on this?
Well, we know that in the last administration, what the central bank did was to create multiple tiers of access to foreign exchange. And this administration came and collapsed it into one process and so on. But the challenge remains that everybody wants their money. Everybody's entitled to get their money. Alan needs to get his money to grow his business. We talk about the capacity challenges of Nigerian airlines. And they'll certainly have capacity challenges when they don't get special support at home. They need special support in terms of access to foreign exchange. They need special access to markets, and that's one of the key things we haven't even mentioned about. That becomes one of the challenges. One of the big challenges with Emirates itself at the point, the United Arab Emirates, was the fact that we were giving multiple entry points and multiple access to Nigeria to Emirates, but EPIS could not get that. Yes. And under bilateral, a bilateral agreement means a part agreement between two parts. Yeah. Okay, it's not unilateral. It shouldn't favor. It should not favor Emirates against EPIS. We should also, at all times, because we're Nigerians and it's a Nigerian country, try to favor our own national carriers by opening up markets. And that was one of the biggest protests I had under the last administration of issues we had to resolve. So the central bank has collapsed its multiple access of foreign exchange under multiple windows. They've reduced the number of incentives programs that were giving certain advantages to certain individuals and certain organizations that were getting preferred foreign exchange rates. The fact remains that when all of this is done, does the central bank have the money to pay? So whether it is with the Emirates or British Airways or EPIS, etc., the government needs to find the mechanism, and that's the mechanism one would assume they are trying to achieve by engaging with all of these countries that are potential investors, especially one like the UAE that is the second largest investor in the national economy, that if we can get these funds in and this investment in, or even the money promised by the Indian delegates at the recent G20 conference, then maybe we're able to access these resources to make payments that are accumulated at the Central Bank of Nigeria.
All right, many thanks for that. I think it's better for us to go on a quick break to get a message from my sponsors. When I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right. right, many thanks for staying with us. I'm glad that you're still on to Real Talk with Kike. And of course, we have issues connecting with one of our guests, Barrister Allen Oyema, and we have Dr. Alex Nwuba. Right?
That's correct.
Oh, thank you so much. Guys, you really need to give me shakara in half place. He is the president of the Aircraft Owners and, of course, Pilot Association of Nigeria. And he has been giving us real talk on the development of the Nigeria and, of course, the UAE packed information, and resolving the travel ban, placed on Nigerians by UAE. And, of course, he's an expert in this industry, in the aviation industry and international relations. And we've been discussing also the implications, of this agreement for both countries, in the aviation industry and many other, investments that are actually coming into the country or should be in the country and all of that in terms of the economic outlook. And I must say many thanks for all your submission thus far. It's been very enlightening, and I hope that people are listening and the government will act on all of this. But quickly, before we go further, I think it's important for me to open our phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 080988 77400, showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, on Silverbird platform, on YouTube, both on Real Talk with Kike and of course on Facebook on Real Talk with Kike. So many thanks to all my fans who have been following on YouTube. I do not take your love for granted. All right, staying through to the topic and the cause at hand. Like I said earlier, thank you so much for all that you've been doing and of course lending your voice to issues that concerns us all. I pray that God give you guys longevity and sparkling health to continue to add to the growth or national building of this country. But let me touch on President Tinubu, because I feel that President Tinubu has been very strategic. I stand to be corrected, because there are quite a number of people that will tell me, Kike, no, you don't think so. No. But let me say, he has been quite strategic with, regaining the confidence of foreign investors and all of that. The UAE stands as the top Asian country with highest investments in Nigeria. And of course, over the course of 4 years, we've seen how from, I think from 2018 to 2022, to be precise, they've invested over, I think 326, I don't know,
million,
about three, yes, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, in $1 billion, in our economy. And of course, we've also touched on that as well. But I must ask you, how do we see this projection, in the long run, in terms of what is being critical in the growth of our economy in Nigeria, and how this investment can yield to economic positivity? We've seen how inflation, is affecting us at the moment. You've spoken about Jackpot syndrome, and the Jackpot syndrome is because of the economy as well. We've quite a number of challenges in our hands. How do you think this will, equate to positive economic change?
Well, let me come back to Jackpot before I come to the economy. I think the challenge we have with Jackpot is that Jackpot is not a bad thing necessarily, but it is being done the wrong way.
Absolutely.
You can't say you're going to the UAE as a tourist and then end up looking for a job in the UAE. That's illegal. That's an illegal means of travel. But yet there are jobs in the UAE at all levels. If you go to many of the hotels in the UAE, you will find Kenyans working in those hotels. You'll find people from other African countries working in those hotels. Just in the same way we can if we follow the right method, and that's very important. So Japan and going there without any skills is of no use to yourself, because it's just a form of enslavement, and that's why we have those negative stories about Nigerians in the UAE suffering all kinds of challenges. Back to the economy.
I can be affected positively.
Bill Clinton and a few other US presidents have always said that the problem with the country is the economy. And in Nigeria, the problem with the country is the economy. It has never been anything different. Even the ethnic conflicts we have within the Nigerian context is the economy. Crime is the economy. All kinds of societal ills are the product of the economy. When things are going well, everybody becomes their brother's keepers. When they're not going so well, everybody starts to scramble for the crumbs. The challenge has been, as we look at the UAE, is we see purposeful leadership that we've seen in the UAE, whether it is the moves like Saudi Arabia. Look at Saudi Arabia's situation today. Saudi Arabia is an oil-producing country like Nigeria. What have they done? They've said there's no point waiting 20 years to get the money from the oil. We can mortgage the future earnings of this oil through a listing
that will give us money to make investments, so long as those investments generate higher returns than waiting for money in the future. These are the kind of innovative ideas we can bring into governance in Nigeria. And I must say, you know, for everything else we say about politics, this president has pushed the right buttons with regards to the economy going forward. So there may be other issues in the air, all kinds of things, but we're moving in the right direction. And why do I say that? But there have been mistakes, and I mean, just for example, say coming to the ECOWAS and saying, well, there will be war if you don't hand back power, is only the product of a lack of maturity in leadership. And so, but the president will learn and grow on the job, and as long as he has good advisors that he listens to, which is always sometimes a challenge in our society, he will fix those mistakes. But the things that have been done already by the president, the lifting of the ending of, what do you call it, subsidy, will free up funds to go into other sectors of the economy, so long as the aim is purposeful. Like I said, with the Arab examples, the aim has to be purposeful. It can't just be about saving money to save. You know, government, we talk about government saving, but you can't save at the expense of the growth of the economy. So the money we save that we've thrown into subsidy, that look at what has happened. Nigeria makes these assumptions about consumption. The minute we reduce subsidy, the consumption patterns fall off and become half those numbers. So subsidy has been money going to people's pockets. By eliminating it, the only mistake we've made, again, like we did with the ECOS example, that's why I spoke about the ECOS example, is that when you take away something, you've got to replace it with something, and that's why Nigerians are suffering. And so the government needs to find a way. We recognize that fuel cost is very high. Fuel is not just about cars. It's about how goods move in the market. It's about how transportation takes place. And so, for example, we say we're pivoting to gas. So we must deploy the resources and the infrastructure to support that kind of economic move. But these things must be done as part of the plan. Government cannot be doing things and then fixing it afterwards. There needs to be a process of sitting down to talk about what is the right thing to do and what steps do we take and how do we mitigate the challenges we face. And that's why majority of citizens are suffering at the moment. But ultimately, they say that there is no smooth road to a better future. We're going through the necessary bumps at the moment to get to a much better Nigeria that we need to get to. And so this UAE deal is one more example of that.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate submission again. I must emphasize, because I just feel that with all the process of settling things and the issues at hand and all of that that you've shared thus far, you know, I would like us to also still talk about the slots, you know, that will be, you know, eventually, hopefully, you know, will be given to the airlines, Nigerian airlines, because I feel that we should speak, we cannot speak specifically on the conditions and the agreements in place right now, because all of that has not been shared publicly, to ensure that, you know, there's equality in terms of the flight slots, you know, given to, for instance, Air Peace and other, you know, people, other Nigerian airlines that might be flying that route. But I know there's Air Peace that is going at the moment, you know, and I want you to actually, you know, talk on this in terms of the frequency that you expect from them between Nigerian airlines and those from the UAE, so that, you know, for when they are planning all their nitty-gritty in terms of crossing the T's and crossing the dots and the T's, at least they'll be able to actually have the better perspective of what Nigerians are expecting from there, and the airline aviation industry as well.
What Nigerians must expect and what government must deliver at the end of the day is a process that benefits Nigeria and Nigerians. Air Peace currently is designated to go to the UAE. There are other carriers. So out of the UAE, the whole idea of bilateral is that out of the United Arab Emirates, 2 airlines come to Nigeria, Etihad and Emirates. So at a minimum, 2 Nigerian carriers must also be designated to fly to the UAE, one being Air Peace, as they are currently authorized, and the government has authorized a few other domestic carriers to go internationally. We expect Ibom will go international very shortly. United Nigeria has been authorized. And so maybe it will be the case of one going to Dubai and the other one going to Abu Dhabi, as in the case of the Emirati Airlines. So it cannot be what we hear ultimately, that Emirate Airlines can come to Nigeria, Nigerians are not reciprocating, because we'll gain nothing. We'll simply deepen the hole with respect to the amount we are owing offshore, as opposed to the amounts that we save within our economy. So, and if government takes that position to allow Emirates to come, it will be opposed by the generality of Nigerians and the industry, such that it must also, we must do what favors our economy. Ultimately, we can't continue. We did that in the last administration, and ultimately, but due to the pressure brought onto the government,
flights were ultimately curtailed for Emirates, equal to the amount granted to Air Peace, and ultimately the Emiratis pulled out. Hopefully now we've begun a new phase of engagement in which they also recognize that as a country we feel that it must be win-win. It mustn't be one person winning and the other losing. And win-win means that what I give to you, you give to me. And that should be the basic spirit of the agreement, even though we are not hearing that now. So the expectation is that as Emirates comes here, Air Peace will be able to go to Dubai or any destination that they choose in the spirit of in a bilateral agreement. And a further Nigerian airline will be allowed to go to at least Abu Dhabi or Sharjah or one of the other 7 Emirates within that context. And that's the only acceptable form of agreement, despite the few words we're hearing right now.
All right, many thanks again. You know, this will be my last question to you because of time. Yes, before the stars, you know, running commentary in my ears, but then we need to round up now, you know. So we can see that leadership is critical in Nigeria, yes, you know, in our country here. And of course, you know, in areas like this, I'm also that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you know, attending the likes of G20 summit in India earlier with US, UK, France, Germany, and many other countries, you know. Now is the time that I must say that, you know, we need to, will I say, it's time for us to be strategic, yeah, that's the word, with alliances, you know, with other countries at the moment. So I must ask you, how can we ensure, how can Nigerians, you know, ensure that the sustainability of this positive development that we'll be seeing thus far from our president, our sitting president, this present administration, in our bilateral relationship will continue to enhance the positivity of our country? What's your take on this thus far?
Well, I think that as we explore a new and better relationship with the UAE, we must deepen our relationship with the UK. You've seen the moves they've made as they left Europe to deepen their relationship with us, allowing us to trade in Naira. We need to deepen our relationship with Europe. We need to deepen our relationship with the USA. We need to explore a deeper relationship with China. We've seen that they are the largest investor in the African continent, and we need their money as much as we need their friendship. China will tell you we've never taken any country to be, what's the word now? We've never taken any country under us. As under us. So we are a good friend. So we will need to deepen that. And we need to broaden our relationship with many of the countries, not in which we import so much, but Nigeria has so much potential for exports, and we need to also deepen that. So we will this is a good move by the government to build a deeper relationship with the Middle East and the UAE, and obviously with Saudi Arabia and the likes. But we need to go back also to our traditional friends and partners and deepen those relationships so that we have the inflow of investment into our economy. And also, JAPA is not a bad thing, I emphasize again. As long as we're sending the right people abroad that can bring in more repatriation of funds to the economy. Look, out of the UAE, the repatriation was over $15 billion from those that went to work there. If Nigerians went there the right way, they can add to those numbers. And so yes, we need, again, to foreign relationships is such a critical element to economic growth, and we need to work very hard on that.
All right, many thanks again for all your submission thus far. It's been very enlightening, and I would just only pray for a better country moving forward with all the economic challenges that we're facing right now. Many thanks again for being on the lunch show today with me, and I do not take it for granted. All right, I think on this note, this is where we move into the last segment of the show. We call it Trending Stories. These are stories that bind us and affect us together as Nigerians. And I must say that the first trending story, you know, that caught my attention is the doyen of accounting chief Akintola Williams that dies, you know, at 104. And I think before I come to you quickly, let me give my submission of my perspective of him, and of course my encounter with him. I had the privilege, you know, of meeting Pa Akintola Williams during my projection, my project collaboration with Deloitte at the time. That is, I facilitate trainings with them, you know, and there was a collaboration with us with Deloitte, you know, and it was an inspiring experience for me, learning about, you know, his incredible achievements, you know, going through his profile at the time, and of course the pride that he brought into Nigeria, you know, as a country. He is, you know, his first indigenous chartered accountants, and that left me truly impressed at the time. Later on, I had to go and start reading more about him to know that he was forced in so many other things in other industry. And during my second meeting with him, and he said to me, I remember when Pa Williams, telling me that, Omo me, you are more than a pretty face. As this is my child, you are more than a pretty face. And I was impressed by your presentation the first time I met you and all of that. That it's good not to judge by the cover, because when he saw me, he was just thinking, oh, how do I juggle this and all of that? And that compliment, stayed with me for long. I must say that those words have actually, stayed with me in a way that, have constantly been a motivation to me in terms of everything that I do today. But putting that aside, let's talk about his ability. His ability to actually listen, and his courage, his grace, his intelligence was remarkable. Those two encounters for me was the whole wow. We still have people like this in this country. And hearing such a lot of comments on socials, on a lot of national TVs worldwide, celebrating him, was a significant encouragement for me, personalizing it. Because as I reflect on his life, I can't help but think about the invaluable lessons, and I feel that the younger generation of today should learn from or can learn from. In the digital age that we are in right now, where our youth have prioritized social media as the green area for them when it comes to growth or validation of whatever thing that they are doing and all of that. Well, I understand that there are pros and cons to this social media, but I just feel that there's so much value that they need to learn from people like him when it comes to leadership, when it comes to skills, when it comes to value, and all of that. We've had opportunity to, to just better ourselves, even as our politicians as well. What do we want to be remembered for is what I feel that we all need to be thinking right now when it comes to the next 100 years, if God permits us, for us to live up to 100 years, because Pa Akintola Williams, he has transitioned from different industry and the other seamlessly from the industrial age into the computer age, and continue to be relevant, because when you pay attention to all his achievements, you wonder that quite a number of of his mates of his age were struggling with the computer age and the likes and all of that, and his own case was different. And it's just important for us to be driven by value. I need to really emphasize on the word value. I just feel that quite a number of our youth, our politicians, need to pay attention to power of character and professional excellence, because I feel that that is one of the things that is lacking in the world of today. So, in the world of today, where many leaders, are not primarily recognized for their achievement, but only in political arena, they just want to die there, so to speak. Let me control my thoughts right now. But Pa Akintola Williams' life serves as a shining example of how we can make a lasting impact through dedication to our craft, to our profession, and of course to the value that we want to uphold and want to be remembered for. His legacy, continues to inspire me. Countless, quite a number of people, or the countless of other people also who thrive for excellence in terms of contributing positively in society and leaving a lasting mark in the world. I must say that my heartfelt condolences go out to his family and his loved ones. May his soul rest in peace, or more power to him. Sir, what's your take on this?
Well, my deepest condolence to the family. He lived to a ripe old age in a society where people the average median age is only half his age.
Absolutely.
And so, and he lived as a proper person. He happened to go to the same church as I do, and so he's somebody I saw quite regularly. Nice. But I think the most, you've said a lot, you've said a whole lot, but I think the most important lesson here, or the most important, or the most fitting tribute for him, is that all of us should go and read about the kind of man that he was, the kind of character that he was, the kind of examples he left, the kind of achievements he left behind. That it is not so much all the flash and dance that makes for
something that is great memories of somebody, but his character, his examples, his transitions, the way he conducted his life, and lived to a ripe old age. You don't live to a ripe old age faced by the blood pressure of criminal activities you have to hide, etc. So we will miss Pa Williams, and but we are honored and blessed that he lived in a generation, and he can give an example that we can follow to be greater than we are today.
Absolutely. Well said, Mr. Alex, for that submission right there. But quickly, let me touch on the last trending story. I hope nobody runs commentary in my ears. Yes, I must take this story. And these stories affect us in this organization, Silverbird. That is a Miss Universe Nigerian pageant that took place on Sunday, and I would like to take a moment, to express my commendation to this organization that I represent by extension, as they're my media partners. I must give kudos to them. The prestigious event was awesome. Silverbird Production, I must say kudos for upholding a lifelong tradition of beauty, of grace, of empowerment, because I feel that that's what a beauty pageant and that they've been holding thus far represent. And of course, the active play in making sure that the Miss Universe Nigeria has become an inspiration for all, and as my media partner, again, I must say that I was truly honored. I was honored, to witness the event of this Miss Universe Nigeria in 2023 firsthand. And of course, when it comes to the entire event, yes, it was a success. It was truly a success. I enjoyed myself. Yes, I came in late. For those who want to, hold my. I just arrived in Nigeria that day, but I still showed up, for my media partner. I was late, but guys, I was able to see that day. And the crown of the Miss Nigeria that was produced, I must say kudos again to Nigerian. I'm talking about the crown now. The crown, that was produced. It was produced in Nigeria, and I must say, kudos to Nigerian creativity. And in my mind, I was just like, it's very nice that we can look inward now when it comes to creativity, and of course not just taking the money out and all of that. There are a lot of great skills out there that we're producing quite a number of made in Nigerian things, and I must say many thanks to this organization for looking inward in terms of local crafts and of course talents and all of that. And that's what I feel that Silverbird in recent, I know we evolve, we transition from how to be better and all of that. That's what this organization. I started from this organization 19 years ago, almost 2 decades now. I started my media career from this station. So I just said to myself, I must return to the place that bettered my career, so to speak. And again, I just say kudos to the team, to Ben, to Guy, to Bola Salako, to all the media crew, to Michael. Everybody always see the glamour of TV, but there are quite a number of technical crew that actually work in terms of synergy with the team. And of course, apart from that, I think that I would like to also emphasize on the fact that there's inclusivity, irrespective of marital status. We could see that there are quite a number of body types, skin colors, and all of that. And name it, the essence of modern beauty and empowerment. The ironic commentary in my ears, but I must admit it. Kudos again to this organization, Silverbird, and to all the team right there. Unfortunately, I'll not be able to take your whole submission on that. Yes, except if you people allow my guests, please.
For 30 seconds.
In 1 minute. In 1 minute, what's your
in a society where things are really enduring, it's a subject of much applause that Silverbird continues to put out an ever improving quality showing in the Miss Universe competition. Kudos to Mr. Ben Bruce. I told him when I saw him a few months ago that he may have forgotten, but when I was in my secondary school, he was an inspiration. He did a few nice things for me, and I think that such a great man continues to persevere and do greater things today. Thank you.
All right, once again, I commend the sponsors, the organizers of this show, and of course, their involvement in terms of transformation journey to women empowerment, and I like the fact that young girls today can channel their energy into something positive and not just swaying aside into something that will not add value to their life. On this note, I think this is where I draw the curtains of the show. Till I come your way next week, remember to be kind to somebody, and I must say many times to my resourceful guests for all that you've shared thus far. It's been very interesting having you today, and of course to Barrister Ellen Yema that couldn't make it just because of his engagement in Abuja at the moment. So I'm very sure we will be bringing him back to actually throw light on the issues at hand and how it affects his organization as a whole. Before then, please stay safe, and let's have hope that Nigeria will be great again. Bye now.